Happy, positive, joyful, thankful, mindful day. And the logic reason because we're gifted with this human, precious life to be able to wake up this morning, able to breathe, able to see, able to hear, able to talk. And then we're gifted with contentment to have clothes to wear, to have roof over our head, to have food to eat, and a job that provides us financial stability and balance. Today, I'll be sharing a moral story about a worried grandmother fear of dying. This grandmother was in her late 70s and she had 2 loving grandkids, and she spent with the grandkids a lot of time playing together and enjoying life with them all the time. From morning to evening, she had so much fun time, and that's how her day went on and on. But at the same time, she was worried, fear of knowing that she is 70 years old and her time is getting close to leave this world and time to die and pass away. And then oftentimes she prayed every night to give a longer life, to live in this world and spend more time with her grandkids. And then one night, as she went to sleep, she had a dream about a young lady that came in her dream. And the lady had wings around her as well and dressed in a clean, fresh, white clothes. And the grandmother asked, "May I please know who you are?" And the young lady answered, "I am Mrs. Death," with a smile on her face. Then the grandmother got a bit worried and she said, "Is it time?" Thinking in her mind that her time must have came to leave this world and to face death and leave her family behind. And then the young lady, Mrs. Death, smiled and she said, "What do you mean by is it time?" And the grandmother said, "Oh, time for me to leave this world and leave my family behind. You said you are Mrs. Death, right?" Then the young lady, Mrs. Death, smiled and said, "No, I'm not here to take you away from your family, nor I'm not here to take you away from this world. And I'm just here to visit you and remind you that death doesn't mean that you are leaving your family behind or leaving this world forever." Then the grandmother, out of her curiosity, she asked, "I thought that's what death was for, and you don't look so scary, as I have heard from a lot of people and I've seen a lot of people as I have went to a few funeral gatherings. and people cried and looked worried and scared. But at the same time, you don't look so scary. And then the Mrs. Death smiled and laughed again. And the Mrs. Death said, the reason is because people have never seen me, and those who have seen me don't know how death is, and it's just their mental perception, people who are alive in this world right now. And the grandmother asked, and how do you let me stay with my family forever and stay in this world forever, as you have mentioned? And then Mrs. Death smiled and said, close your eyes and I will show you. And then the grandmother closed her eyes. And then Mrs. Death said, I want you to imagine the time when you had so much fun playing with your grandkids, and have that image in your mind for a little bit, and then enjoy that moment for a few minutes. And then the grandmother closed her eyes and she had imagined the best times, the good times she had playing with her grandkids, and the grandmother had smiled on her face. And then after a few minutes later, Mrs. Death said, now you can open your eyes. And grandmother opened her eyes. And Mrs. Death said, see, I have told you that death does not mean you're leaving your family forever. You will be always with your family in their minds and their heart, as you have seen with your imagination. Death does not mean you're leaving this world forever. Death means a new beginning in this world once again. Where there is beginning, there is ending. Where there is ending, there is always a new beginning. And then the grandmother was so happy to hear these words of wisdom from Mrs. Death. And all of a sudden, Mrs. Death vanished in the deep blue sky and in the clouds. And then the grandmother alarm clock beeped and she woke up in the morning. And she remembered that dream about Mrs. Death and her words of wisdom, and all her fear and worry about death had went away. And then few months later, she became very ill with a terminal cancer illness. And then the doctor told her that she only had few weeks left in this world. And then she told the doctor that what Mrs. Death had told her, that death does not mean end of this life. Death means a new beginning, a new fresh start. Where there is beginning, there is ending. Where there is ending, there is new beginning. And her grandkids came to visit her and her other family members. And the grandkids started crying, sitting by her side of the bed. And the grandmother asked the grandkids, how come you guys are crying and you look very worried and sad? And the grandkids said, Grandma, I heard you are leaving us forever and we won't see you anymore. Then the grandmother had a big smile on her face and she laughed. And she said, I want you guys to close your eyes and then imagine the good times we had playing together for a few minutes. Then the grandkids closed their eyes and they had all the good memories of imagination playing with their grandmother, and they had a big smile on their face. Then a few minutes later, the grandkids opened their eyes. The grandmother told the grandkids, see, I have told you, I'll be always with you guys in your mind and your heart. Every time when you miss me or think about me, just close your eyes and imagine the memories we had together, and I'll be always with you guys in your mind and your heart. And then that night, the grandmother passed away peacefully in her bed. So, the moral of this story is, we all fear and worry about death, and oftentimes we avoid and think and talk about death. But talking about death, thinking about death every day is not a bad thing. It can be a reminder for us every day that life is very short, and in this short life, fill your mind, hearts, and soul with full of compassion, forgiveness, contentment, mindfulness, and blessings, so you have no regret at the end. And death does not mean we're leaving this world forever or your family forever. Death means a new beginning, a new fresh start in this world once again. Where there's beginning, there's ending. Where there's ending, there's always a new beginning. Death does not mean we're leaving our family forever also. We'll be always with our family, our loved ones, in their heart and in their mind. So every morning, every afternoon, and every evening before going to bed, think about this grandmother's story and Mrs. Death, the young lady, her words of wisdom, and always know and remind yourself every morning, every afternoon before going to bed, where there's beginning, there's ending. Where there's ending, there's always a new beginning. The sun always shines in the morning and the moon takes over at night, but the sun shines again the next morning. Death does not mean we're leaving our world, we're leaving our family behind. We'll be always with our family in their mind and their heart. Thank you, and once again, happy, positive, joyful, thankful, mindful day. And this is another way to transform our mind and life, to remind ourselves every morning, every afternoon, and every night before going to bed. Thank you.